Welcome back to One Stop Law. Now, in my previous video, that is part 1 of the Kashmiri Files video, I had given you the chronology of the events with what happened in Kashmir and what exactly led to the exodus of Kashmiri Pandits from Kashmir Valley. I had given you the events till 1990, and in this video we will look into the next set of events which kind of drew the curtain on the exodus episode, and we will also look into the various questions or the debated angles of this exodus issue. We will also try to look into the actual plight of the Kashmiri Pandits and their present expectations, hope, and demand from the Indian government and administration, because they are still waiting for justice, and they are having certain hope from the government till date. So let us carry on with our video. Let us look into the final set of events in the valley on Kashmiri Pandit exodus. Finally, on 10th November, VP Singh's really awful government fell and Chandrasekhar's government came in power. He came in power with a very small number of MPs as he got the support of the Congress government from outside. But there was no harmony between that government and Congress from day one itself. So very soon that government was also pulled down by the Congress, and India went for its summer elections. And in during this time only in May 1991, Rajiv Gandhi's assassination happened, and due to which the summer elections actually happened in two phases. So finally, the 1991 June elections led to the appointment of P.V. Narasimha Rao as the Prime Minister of India, and his government carried out the most brutal and the toughest fight back on the part of India, both in Punjab and Kashmir, which had both got completely messed up in the previous, 1.5 year run of the VP Singh government and Chandrasekhar's government. But the truth was that situation had already gone out of hands. Now, if we try to look at the reality of the Kashmiri Pandits in India till date, we will see that time, history, and politics have always been very cruel, turning a blind eye to the pain and horror faced by these Kashmiri Pandits during 1990 exodus. If Pakistan's aim was to divide the two communities in India that were living peacefully together in Kashmir for centuries, then it has to be admitted that they succeeded in doing so within 48 hours. That is between 20th and 21st of January 1992. On one hand, there was the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits on 19th January midnight, and on the other hand, there was the killing of the Kashmiri Muslim massacre at the Gokadal Bridge on 21st of January. And in the next few months, thousands of Kashmiri Pandits left Kashmir. According to Kashmiri Pandit Sangharsh Samiti, around out of 75,000 Kashmiri Pandit families living in the Kashmir Valley, 70,000 families left Kashmir between 1990 and 1992. And this migration continued till 2000. Again, as per KPS's, 400 Kashmiri Pandits were killed between 1990 and 2011. So, the one question which still remains unanswered here is that what would have happened if Kashmiri Pandits were given timely protection? Because it is often alleged that Jagmohan was appointed just before the Kashmiri Pandit exodus as the governor of Kashmir, and he had actually encouraged the exodus. Many Kashmiri Pandits till today say that Jagmohan actually gave a safe passage to the Kashmiri Pandits as their Muslims neighbors had suddenly turned hostile to them. Whereas the locals thought that Kashmiri Pandits were being migrated from Kashmir so that the army can open fire on them. Actually, both these statements have elements of truth somewhere hidden in them. So the truth is that if local population and the Indian administration had supported the Kashmiri Pandits, then this exodus wouldn't have happened. Because this is also true that Governor Jagmohan was advised to say or tell the people that the Kashmiri Pandits will be taken care of by the protection of the army, but Jagmohan didn't make any such announcements ever. Instead, refugee camps were constructed in every district of Kashmir, and Kashmiri Pandits were told to live in these camps for security. Even it was said that the government officers could leave the camps if they were unsure of their safety and that they will be paid their salaries in time. So, this was probably the greatest surrender in front of the terrorists, as it was very evident that the then administration itself encouraged the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits. What the Kashmiri Pandits never expected or thought was that they would never be able to return to their homes. Months and years went by with no hope. Militancy took over Kashmir, and Pandits continued to live in tents or refugee camps. Some of the Kashmiri Pandits later migrated to other cities of India who had some money or acquaintances elsewhere. But we should keep in mind that the Kashmiri Pandits living in these camps were actually, people belonging to middle class, and they were, brought down to the status of a camp life. Till today, we can actually see Jagati township in Jammu, where 4,000 to 5,000 Kashmiri Pandits live, and such government settlements are constructed in many other places like at Nagrota, Multi, etc. Kashmiri Pandits may still want to return to their homes, but by now they also must have realized that it has become a daydream for them. Because elected governments every time make big claims and promises, like to construct high security townships in the Kashmir Valley with high walls, but all prove to be hollow promises as the situation still in the valley is not so great, with frequent terrorist attacks, and the houses of Kashmiri Pandits were either captured or sold off at very cheap prices. Uh, the BJP government, the present BJP government, which came in power in 2014, had in its election manifesto, promised that it will bring back the Kashmiri Pandits back to their home with full dignity, but that still remains a promise. On 5th August 2019, when Article 370 of the Indian Constitution was abrogated to lift the special status from Kashmir, Kashmiri Pandits across the country did celebrate a lot as they thought that finally they got some sort of justice. But unfortunately, the few Kashmiri Pandits who still stay in the valley for all these years face extreme political and administrative isolation till date. And even after 2-3 years of this abrogation of Article 370, not much hope is likely to be seen for the Kashmiri Pandits. Even the non-migrant Kashmiri Pandits, that is, who despite of this terror did not leave Kashmir and are still staying there, are neglected. They're not getting any financial or aid in spite of the orders of the Home Ministry, nor they are getting any employment opportunities or government help. So, we can understand even if these Kashmiri Pandits now go back to Kashmir Valley, their situation is not going to be any indifferent from the Kashmiri families already staying there. 500 out of 800 families of Kashmiri Pandits staying in Kashmir Valley at present have no employment. And especially after the repeal of this Article 370 and the post pandemic crisis India is going through, their situation have deteriorated further. So what we see that more than 30 years have passed till the time of this Kashmiri Pandit exodus in 1990s, and till now there is a lot of debate over each angle of these issues. Like what happened in Kashmir, what actually happened in Kashmir in between January to March of 1990? How many Kashmiri Pandits were actually targeted and killed? Why were they not given any protection by the administration? Who had left them in the transit camps? And why are they not able to return to their home till date? The answer to these questions are even unknown till date after 30 years of the exodus. However, if we try to look forward to this situation, to move ahead and to look into what actions can be taken, if we look into some of the interviews of the Kashmiri Pandits, the uh, things they still expect from our government can be summed up under the following six heads. That is, first of all, they are demanding or they have an urge for a committee to be set up which should actually make the inquiry and find out who were responsible for these killings and all the atrocities on the Kashmiri Pandits. So, real accountability has to be taken. Secondly, They are no more looking forward to any short term rehabilitations from the side of the government. What they are looking for is safety of PM package employees to be ensured to them. Third, they are seriously looking for reservations in educational institutions and scholarships for research work to be given to them. And they are also expecting some decent jobs of importance and placements in the mainstream, not any class 4 or group D category jobs, because 46% of the youth in Jammu and Kashmir on on this day is unemployed, and we can well imagine then the people staying in the camps and their rate of employment and unemployment. Fifth, the accommodations they have been given have have very nominal facilities, and most importantly they do not have electricity for hours in a day during summers. So decent accommodation with proper electricity supply is to be provided in the government settlements. And lastly, the cases on their land grab, which is going on for all these 3 decades. Land grab, most of these lands have been occupied or sold off for very cheap prices, and the cases are still going on. So these cases need to be disposed of, because the first generation may have already passed away, whose actually land they were, and their children are still coming down, going down to Kashmir to look appear for their for these cases for the last 20-30 years, which is a torture for them. Finally, in conclusion, it may be said that no matter what happens, whoever were responsible for these incidents of exodus and militancy in Kashmir, until and unless such a situation arises when these Kashmiri Pandits can actually return to their home peacefully and are felt welcomed without the armed force security, there will be no permanent peace in Kashmir. Now, the all debate over the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits have come to limelight because of this recent movie released. We started our video with the mention of this movie. Well, politics over movies in India is not new, but this time this debate is taking a different turn. This debate over Kashmir files has turned the other way, where people are debating on whether the pain of Kashmiri Pandits is more or that of the Kashmiri Muslims is more. Sadly, the debate has come to this end. So what we see that the atrocities and the tragedy of the Kashmiri Pandits are actually used to create further tension in India by molding into popular narratives, which is doing nothing but adding fuel to the divisive and hateful politics and propaganda, which is equally shameful and alarming for all of us. No one is asking the question why Kashmiri Pandits have still not got justice, or why, even after 3 decades, none of the political parties who got a chance to rule India time to time did anything to help them to return home or give proper compensation or dignified rehabilitation or job to them. Instead, after this movie, the question is being asked, or it is being shown, who to hate in India. Movies are an art of expression. The platform, the medium, is used not only to entertain but also to educate and make oneself aware. So, if a cinema gives voice to the victims who are still waiting for justice for the last 3 decades, one should respect it. Many are criticizing this movie, saying that it is less of a history and more of a propaganda. Fair enough. People can have different views. We are living in a country which gives us freedom of speech and expression, so people have right to express their views. But what we should not forget is that while we criticize this movie or any article or any view and cancel any such movie or cinema, we do not trivialize the trauma and horror which the actual victims in reality went through. That's all for this video. It's very difficult, as I told you, to summarize Kashmir and its events in 1 or 2 videos. But anyway, I tried to give you an overall picture, and as I told you, I will not give you any opinion as to who were to blame or who are responsible. But yes, we do look forward to have some clear picture on accountability, as well as we also look forward that whatever justice these people are waiting for the last 3 decades, they get that at the soonest. So on that note, I conclude this video. See you in some other video. Thank you all.